Now, a court decision means the Netherlands will need to drastically slash greenhouse gas emissions next year. For more, let's go back to Miriam Namazi in our European Broadcast Centre.
Yeah, Dutch activists have won a legal battle to force government leaders to take action on climate change. Climate activists have been celebrating the verdict, which forces the government to reduce emissions to 25% of 1990 levels by the end of next year. The court said the government had a duty to protect its citizens from the effects of climate change, but the chances of the government reaching the target look slim, with the Netherlands being one of the biggest polluters in Europe. So Dennis van Berkel is a lawyer at the Urgenda Foundation, which brought the case against the Dutch government, joins me now from Amsterdam. I know that you too will be celebrating this ruling today, but of course we know the Dutch government is not going to meet its carbon and emission targets for 2020. It's too late for that. They do have, they say, a more ambitious plan for 2030. Does it go far enough to comply with this ruling?
Well, no, in fact, the ruling is very clear. The target for 2020 has to be reached. The government has said since 2015 that they will honor the judgment, and there are still options on the table that the government can take. For instance, there are a number of coal-fired power plants that they could close, that thus far they did not choose to do that. But there are a number of things that they can do. And in fact, our organization presented, together with 750 other organizations, a list of 50 measures that the government could take to still reach the 2020 target. So the 2020
you
target...
are confident that I mean, they've already announced that they're closing one coal plant, but you think that there are steps they can take to meet that target, even though we're clearly running out of time? Do you think that's realistic?
Oh, absolutely. Last week, Parliament passed a motion, again, asking the government to come up with more measures. The government acknowledged that it has to come up with more measures, and it said it will come up with more measures. More measures need to be taken, can be taken, and the gap can still be closed, although it is a big gap. And that's exactly what the court said. It is unacceptable to keep pushing the can down the road and to say, well, we have higher ambitions somewhere in the future. If you can't prove that those higher ambitions in the future actually
right. So tell me, what happens then? What happens if they fail to close that gap?
Well, we trust that the government will do what is necessary to implement this judgment.
But you won't take further legal proceedings against them if they fail to meet this target?
Well, in the context of this judgment, we didn't ask for any penalties. There are possibilities down the line to do that. We are not thinking about these things right now. What is important for us is that there was a strong judgment from the Supreme Court and that the government has said it will come up with new measures, and we expect them to do so in the next couple of months.
It's all very well for the Supreme Court to rule that the Dutch government has a duty to protect the rights of citizens on climate change. But what about corporations and the contribution of the big corporations, particularly oil and gas companies, to climate change? What about accountability there?
Well, obviously, they have a responsibility. But the difference with governments is that since 1992, they have acknowledged that they have the responsibility over this problem, that they have a responsibility for all the emissions in their territory. Since the climate treaty in 1992, they have adopted that responsibility. In Paris, again in 2015, they said, we are responsible for this problem. We need to make sure that these emissions are going to not lead us to a warming above 1.5 degrees. And we have human rights, which are the basis of this case, that obligated the states to take these actions.
Well, we do appreciate you taking the time to speak to us today. Dennis van Berkel, thank you.